What's up, everybody? This is Adam back at it again for hashtag homeless day 49. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of this. But it's a better day today. A lot less. I don't know what happened, but the people that so not last night, but the night before, when the workers at the shelter were coming through with their strobe lights and yelling screaming at everybody to go to bed. I guess the people that didn't go to bed, they weren't there last night. So I don't know if they may have got kicked out. I don't know. I stayed out of the shelter until, I didn't come back until, I left at like 7 in the morning yesterday, didn't come back till 8:30 at night. I ended up, let's see, I did a mix yesterday. After I recorded yesterday's video, I went over to Tim Hortons, because why not at this point? It doesn't matter where I go. Jamestown follows me everywhere I go in Jamestown. So, I went there for 2 to 3 hours. Internet was really fast yesterday. Those videos uploaded like that. That was cool. Let's see. Then, around the time I have to go pee, because I have to pack everything up and put it in my bag anyway, I just decide, anytime I gotta go to the bathroom, I take a break. So I walked up to the library, set up my workstation at the library, sat there until about, 4 o'clock or something. And then I went and had a decent pizza at this divey little convenient mart that I normally don't like to go into, but somebody said their pizza's okay. And so I went and tried that, got a small pizza. That was pretty good. Haven't had a decent pizza. And this wasn't anything to like, there's no reason to come to Jamestown to get that pizza. But it was better than any of the pizzas I've had since I got out of prison, that's for sure. Let's see. Then after that, I went back to Tim Hortons because the library closes at 7, but I can sit at Tim Hortons until, they're open 24 hours, so I can stay there until I'm absolutely have to come back to the shelter, curfew or whatever. So I might start doing a blend of that because it's really close to the shelter. I can walk to and from in less than 5 minutes. So I got some things done, applied to some jobs, had a couple of recruiters reach out to me yesterday with job leads. I responded to them, but it's the 4th of July. I don't think they celebrate the 4th of July in India, but I still don't feel like I'm going to hear back from these recruiters anytime this week. So this is just America's corporate holiday week. Nothing goes on in my line of work. Everybody's gone. I don't know. Off the cuff stuff. I don't know what else to talk about, honestly. I'm just burned out. I'm burned out from this whole experience, and so I don't know. We'll see what comes to mind. I'm going to switch over to some of the things I wrote down that I wanted to talk about. And so yeah, I love you guys in the comments section. You guys help in so many ways. I don't even know where to begin. I did get some donation love yesterday through the donate links. I've sold some photos. That was awesome. All you guys in that way, that's awesome. But just random things in the comments. I hate to say this, but there are times that I'm glad that I got thrown out into the street to become homeless, because I'm getting connected with so many cool people as a result of that. It would have never happened if I still had that roof over my head, because I wouldn't be on social media and I wouldn't be putting these videos out. But there's so many cool people that are, that I'm making connections with, that it almost makes up for the betrayal that caused me to end up in this situation. And I already know. I already know that the sweetest revenge or whatever, for the lack of a better word right now, is that when I get wildly successful because of the fact that I was kicked to the curb and made to be homeless, the person who did it is going to have some major regrets. Because women only want to be with a successful man. That's just the way the world works. And when I end up more successful than I was before I was arrested, well, I'm just going to leave it there. Someday I might get to say thank you with a sarcastic smirk on my face, but, for now I'm just going to focus on other things. So yesterday, thanks to you viewers, I was complaining about the software app OpenMTP, which is a file transfer app to get files back and forth easily between your Android device and a Mac. And one of you viewers, his username is Paul Saul Paul. So, Better Call Paul Saul Paul reached out to me with a private message saying he looked into this and found out that there is indeed a file list view for this app, but it was kind of hidden in the application settings. So I thought that was really awesome, because that's what I was complaining about with the app, and I didn't even have to dig into the app. One of the viewers reached out to me to say, no, there is a file list view. Check it out. So when I had a moment, I opened up the app, and sure enough, it was there right in front of me the whole time. I guess I'm just used to how things are worded normally, and I was in a rush the other day when I was using the app. I just wasn't paying as much attention as I should have been, but there was a setting in the application settings called View as Grid with a couple of on-off switches for the computer and the phone view, and they were turned on by default. And so turning those off, it switches back to a list view where you can actually read the file names, and that's really all I needed. So this app is a game changer for me. I'm golden. This app will save me a whole lot of time when it comes to backing up video files from this phone. I was using an app called, I don't even know the name, Wi-Fi FTP server, I think is the name of the app, but it sets up an FTP server over a local Wi-Fi network and allows you to transfer files back and forth wirelessly. And I've been doing that for years. I've been using that app for years and years on every Android phone I have. I've just never had good luck with plugging my phone directly into a USB port on a Mac and having it actually work the way it's supposed to. But this Wi-Fi FTP server works great. But you're limited to the speed of transferring over Wi-Fi, and it's not as fast as a hard cable. So right now, a set of transfers that used to take 2 or 3 hours over the Wi-Fi, while I would have to occasionally reach over and, babysit and check the progress bars and make sure, nothing's getting hung up. Now it takes about 15 to 20 minutes whenever I need to do it. So this app is going to be useful for so many things in the future. I'm glad I found it. I'll give a shout out to the guy's channel who introduced me to the app in the first place, and some links to it to download it and all that stuff in the description below. I'll even include a link to the video that I watched, because this guy shows some other good tools for transferring files between your devices if you use a Mac and an Android phone. Let's see, just look for all of that in the description below, unless you're on TikTok, in which case I just feel bad for you. So let's see, I said in a couple of videos ago that I make decisions sometimes that when God tells me to do something, sometimes I have to make a decision that causes me problems in this world. Because I know it is what God wants me to do, I'll tough it out. And when I do it, even though I'm putting up with problems in this world as a result of a decision like that, I told you about the job that I had to quit, and the second that I quit, the girl that I was dating dumped me on my ass because I quit my job. And then what happened? I ended up having a high-paying freelance job for the entire summer so that I could spend a whole summer doing cool things with my son. And at the very end of summer, I got an even higher paying job than the job that I had quit. So, good riddance, honey. You missed out on some good times. Women always want the successful guy. And, she pulled that trigger too soon. Anyway, so I'm going to tell you another one of these stories. And this is a direct response to a comment that one of you left me on yesterday's video about product testing. Deductive Reasoning 4257 said that all testers clearly have their hands tied by executives that didn't earn the job. And I'll pause there for a second. That's if the company still has testers. A lot of companies just got rid of their testers and let the customers do the job for them. But anyway, back to the comment. The amount of poor decisions I see being made at the tops of corporations is staggering. There is no greater proof that the college system has failed than all the inept decisions from those at the top. And, I agree. So here we go. There was a time I worked for a company whose stock price plummeted from $18 per share on their IPO. And ironically, the very first day I worked for the company was also the day of their IPO. So, you can make all the inferences that you want, but I had nothing to do with this. Their stock price plummeted from $18 per share to 6 cents. That's cents. $18 to 6 cents per share. And it really boiled down to the CEO making a statement, the iPad is just a stupid fad, and then acting accordingly. So this story is a result of the comment from yesterday's video. Like I said, I had been out of a job for a while. I think this is the first job that I found after I worked for the company that fired me for having a kid. And if you want to hear that story, that's in another video. I'm just going to give you guys, you first-time watchers, a reason to go watch some of the other videos. But anyway, I'd been out of work for a while, and a good friend of mine reached out and said, hey, this company's looking for some people. Send your resume. And I sent a resume directly to the hiring manager, and I had an interview 2 days later. The interview process was weird. The human resources manager hated me because I was a job hopper. We'll talk about that in a little bit. There were some other things that she said, you have a 7-month gap on your resume. And basically this HR manager wanted nothing to do with me, yet the hiring manager, the vice president of marketing, and all the other people that I interviewed wanted to bring me on board, and they had the final say. But that's just I will jump into that for a second, because that is typical. That's one of the reasons why you've got to get your resume into the hiring manager's hands, because human resources people are trash. They don't do their job. They judge you based on things that make absolutely no difference in whether you can do the job or not. It's the same situation that I'm going through with these box marts, where everybody at the store wants me on board, including the general manager, but then some dingbat in the HR office 2,000 miles away says no because I have a criminal record. The hiring manager knows what I did, looked me up on Google, found out what happened, and said, we don't care. We want you to come and work here. So yeah, hiring our HR staff. Like I said, this HR woman, she looked at the gaps between different jobs on my resume. Why weren't you working for those 3 months? What were you doing? How come you have a 2-month gap on your resume here? I got to the point where I don't put the months. I just put the years that I worked for a company. That way, if they really want to know the details of the exact time I started and stopped a job, I'll let them know, but I'm not putting it on my resume anymore. For that reason, because HR people are idiots. Let's see, what were the other things? Oh yeah, there were just there were just other things that this woman wanted to disqualify me over, yet I was more than qualified for the job. And I had the job offer in my email box when I came home from the interview that day. So, and I started a couple of days later. But this HR manager, we would put job listings out, and this was while I was working for the company. We would put job listings for our department online, and then we wouldn't get any resumes. And the VP and the creative director of the marketing department would reach out to the HR manager and ask her, "Aren't we getting any resumes for this job lead?" And the HR person would come back and say, "Well, yeah, I have a bunch of them, but I don't think any of them are suitable." And the VP got really mad and said, "That's not your decision to make. That's my decision. Give me the fucking resumes." And yeah, that's exactly how he said it, because he was, I told you a story about I started to tell you a story about the guy who told Tom Cruise to go fuck himself, and that was the same VP of marketing that I'm talking about now. In fact, there was a guy that the creative director of the marketing department wanted to hire, a good friend of his, told him to send his resume. Thought that the guy decided not to send the resume because 3 or 4 weeks had gone by and he didn't have the resume in his hands. So he dials up the HR director, and the HR director says back to him, "Yeah, I see that resume. I didn't think he was any good." And once again, he was like, "You don't make that decision. That's my decision. Send me the fucking resume." And I think they eventually got that HR manager fired because they were sick of her roadblocking people. And once again, that guy, he was very talented and he was a good fit for the company, and they hired him. But this HR manager would sit on resumes or just throw them in the trash for people that we actually wanted to hire. And she did it all the time. So I worked in this place. When I started working there, it was a great place to work. There was no sign that their stock price was going to plummet from $18 a share to 6 cents. But the CEO basically said the iPad is just a fad. And a background to that, this company manufactured devices, speech devices for disabled people confined to wheelchairs, autistic kids, like Stephen Hawking. Is Stephen Hawking on his wheelchair, that thing where it makes him talk like a robot? "Hi, I am Stephen Hawking." They made those things. So the company would sell the public a junky product with a horrible touch screen that barely worked, running like Windows 98, and here it's 2005. And they would charge $10,000 for this thing. And most of the money when people buy these for their kids and stuff, it's coming from government funding. So they're getting $10,000 for every one of these junky devices that they're selling to the public. And so when the iPad came out, and it had been out for a while, the iPad was not a new thing, but the CEO of the company said, "Oh, that iPad thing is just a fad. Nobody's going to keep buying that's just going to go away. Nobody's going to keep buying those things." And now the government is kind of wondering, why are we paying $10,000 for this junky device for these kids when we could just get them a $500 tablet? So, the company even went to the point of spending $2 million to develop an iPad app. But then they put the app on the shelf and hid it from the public because they didn't want to bastardize their $10,000 devices by selling a $200 app for the iPad. And then they even went to the point of licensing technology assets from the iPad app and letting other companies, competitors of theirs, make apps for the iPad, which further killed their business. So that's just a number of reasons why the stock price plummeted from $18 a share to 6 cents. So needless to say, the CEO was fired. The new CEO called a whole company meeting together, and she called the entire company into a room and bitched us out. Like it was our fault that they made these stupid decisions. And people were leaving. People were fleeing this place. Like the passengers on the Titanic trying to get a spot on a lifeboat. I'm going to say that in my 30-person department, 15 had already left by the time that the CEO was fired. And everybody else was leaving. Anyway, the CEO called us all together. The company would pay your remaining vacation time. So people were foregoing their vacations so that they could collect their unpaid vacation time when they quit. And so the CEO made this big announcement after bitching us out. I'm no longer giving all of you an I quit bonus just because you want to walk out the door. And she was very condescending towards everybody. And I was about to flick her off and just walk out of the room because I'm not putting up with this. But I bit my tongue and I just held it together and decided, take the money and run. A couple weeks later, one of my coworkers that I liked her a lot. She had been working there for a few years. She earned a bonus from the previous fiscal year, but she put in her 2-week notice right on the same day that her paycheck came that had her bonus in it. She put in her 2-week notice. The company went into her bank account and took the money back from her bonus. They revoked her bonus, and that bonus was from the previous year, not for the current year. Just so you know, look at the fine print. When you sign a direct deposit form for the company that you're working for, you are also giving them the right to take money back from you. They can take money out of your bank account the same way they put it in your bank account. So for me, I always set up a separate account for deposits like that. And then I transfer the money out when I get paid. And I always have an account where I share the routing and account number so that I can receive money, and sometimes I'll make payments out of that. But then I keep a separate account, typically at the same bank, so that I can keep my money and keep those routing and account numbers private and don't share them with anybody. So that's a little bit safer. It's even safer if you use multiple banks and you set up a transfer connection between the banks. There's different ways to do that. So anyway, because of all the things going on at this company, I found a new job, and I decided I wasn't going to give them any notice that I quit. I was just going to take my paycheck on my last day of work, go to my bank, close out that checking account, move all the money into a different checking account, and then just start my new job the following Monday. And just, if they want to keep paying me until they figure out I'm not going to work anymore, that's fine. But I had planned. My plan was to not even tell them I quit. I was just going to stop showing up and see how much longer they'll keep paying me. That was my FU to that CEO telling me off for, them train wrecking their company. And for everything else that they were doing. They were retaliating against employees who were quitting in droves, and it became a toxic environment. And I was like, you know what? You don't get a notice. So on my very last day at the company, like I said, I was going to go to my bank after my paycheck was showing up and close the account. I wasn't going to give notice, all that stuff. But on my very last day, Friday, new job starts Monday. A new job with a 40% increase in pay. I got called into my boss's office sometime in the afternoon, and all of the HR staff were sitting in the office as well. And I got notified that I was being terminated. And I'm being laid off because of the company downturn. And so here I'm trying to have a frowny face and look like I'm sad after they give me a $10,000 severance pay check. All the people in the room had all these fake frowns on their faces, letting me know how hard it was for them to let me go, and how how difficult of a decision that was. And, we really think that you're talented and you're going to go far and you're not going to be unemployed very long. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to be employed for Saturday and Sunday, but I'm going to be employed. I just kept my mouth shut. It was hard. It was hard to keep a straight face and look sad about this when they're handing me a $10,000 check on my very last day, when my plan was to just walk out the door and never even tell them I quit. So if I had given them 2 weeks notice like I was supposed to, that would have cost me $10,000. That would have been a $10,000 mistake. So I got rewarded for doing the right thing. You don't always have to give a 2-week notice. If a company is treating you like garbage, dish it right back to them. Who cares at this? Don't let people walk all over you and treat you like garbage. You might have to put up with some problems in this world, but if you make the right stand and God has your back, he's going to reward you for it. Oh, this is hard. It's hard not to laugh while I'm telling you the story. My boss at the time, when they let me go, I have this $10,000 check in my hand, etc. My boss said that they were throwing me a going away party at the local bar after work that we always went to. So here I am sitting at the bar. Everybody on the team is coming up to pat me on the back and saying, "You'll be back on your feet in no time. Don't worry about it, Adam." And, I'm just sitting there trying to look somber, like I'm all upset. And, I'm trying not to just fall off my bar stool laughing my ass off because I just walked away a winner. Like I said, the new job starting 3 days later came with a 40% pay increase. And I'm sitting at the bar with a $10,000 check in my hand. And I still had one more paycheck to receive from the company on top of that. And my new job starts in 3 days. And here's the thing. In the 3 years or so that I worked for this company, I received a 1% raise one time during those 3 years. But, when I became a job hopper like those corporate HR people hate, I got a 40% increase in my pay by hopping jobs. I mean, in my line of work, and honestly, in most lines of work these days, the only way to advance your career is to change jobs every couple of years. So, yeah, you're going to deal with HR people calling you a job hopper and trying to spin it in a negative way. But, my response to them is this. If I didn't hop jobs every few years, I'd still be making minimum wage. And the only time I ever get a pay increase is when I take on a new job. You should know this because you see the meaningless raises that you give out to the employees at your company every year. So if that makes me a job hopper, then I'll take that as a compliment. So, that's just another story about, making a stand in a situation where something wrong is going on and it's going to go against conventional wisdom. Everybody who I told my plans to, that I was quitting the job, that I wasn't giving notice, and that I was just going to stop showing up until they stopped paying me. They all told me that was going to be the wrong thing to do. You're going to get in trouble. You're going to damage your career. You're going to, it's this, that, the other thing. You got to be careful. Don't do things like that, etc., etc. I got a $10,000 bonus prize because of doing it. Don't tell me that I made the wrong decision. If I had put in a 2-week notice, somebody in the HR office would have taken that check and said, "Oh, wow, that's awesome. We don't have to pay that guy now. Woo!" I got mine. So don't tell me about doing the wrong thing, because every single time people tell me, "Oh, you're doing the wrong thing. You better take that shot. You better take that shot because you're going to lose your job." And I said, I told a Zoom meeting, I waited until the all-company meeting, and I told 100 people in a Zoom meeting to go fuck themselves. So that's probably the reason why they wouldn't let me collect unemployment. but I never even got to have a hearing for my unemployment claim. The state just denied it, rubber stamped it. But if I had to go to court for the unemployment claim that I had filed and fought for that job, they could have probably brought the recording from the Zoom meeting with them, and, that wouldn't have made me look good. But 4 months after I got fired for not taking that shot, I ended up with a job that came with another 40% raise. I was making something like $40,000 a year more than I was at the company that just fired me. So I did go through 4 months of hell. I was so bankrupt, I racked up $10,000 in credit card debt just trying to keep my bills paid. I got to the point where I couldn't pay rent anymore. I had to sell a car just so that I could squeeze out another month of survival. And a new job just fell out of the sky at the right time, making a significant amount of money more than the job that fired me for not taking the shot. But unfortunately, I was still in such a bad frame of mind, and I was still bitter and angry about this FJB economy and this situation where these pricks threw me out into the street because I had a remote job where I worked from home, never even had to go to the office, and they told me, if you don't take that shot, we're firing you 2 weeks before Christmas. What a rotten, despicable... The company name is Fiserv. I'm just going to throw it out there. Fiserv. That's the kind of dirty, rotten scumbags that would throw you out into the street for not taking a COVID shot at your remote job. Fiserv. Fiserv. They're the ones that did that. So, let's see. But, I was in such an angry place that when they raided Trump's house in Florida, I lost my cool. And I said a bunch of vicious things on social media that resulted in me going to prison. There's some background to it. All of the statements that I made on social media were in response to news articles. The one that got me into the most trouble, the IRS had just posted a job posting on irs.gov and for revenue agents. And in big, bold red letters at the bottom of the ad, and this was on the government website, it said, must be willing to use deadly force. And so I took a screenshot of this, and people were talking about it all day long and sharing it across social media. So on my account, I posted a screenshot of this ad, and my comment underneath it was, if you mother effers show up at my house, I'll be waiting for you and I'll slaughter all of you. Or something to the effect of, if you mother effers show up at my house and kick down my door, I'll be waiting for you. And I'll fucking slaughter you. That's what I said. And that's what caused them to come to my house and take me to prison. But it wasn't like I was just making this up and just saying it for no reason. These were comments to things that were going on. The IRS is threatening to use deadly force against all of us because we owe taxes. And so I responded to that, and I put some things in some other posts that were really bad. I'm going to talk about this in detail. I came to the conclusion that I'm going to have to put a series of videos together, probably 20 minutes each, to talk about different aspects about what happened in my case. And I don't want to do it without having time to go through my paperwork, quote things. Like, I can't even quote the exact quote that I just told you because I don't have it in front of me. That's all on the indictment. There are things that happened in the courtroom. There are things that happened while I was in prison. There are just different things about this whole system that are crooked and disgusting, and what they're doing to everybody who gets caught up into it that I need to talk about. There are lies in the media. The media is trying to say that I was in an armed standoff against the FBI when the reality is I was in a soundproof and light-proof bedroom where I couldn't hear anything going on until they started smashing my house apart, at which point I jumped out of bed wearing nothing but a pair of jeans, no shirt. I was bare-chested, no socks, no underwear. I grabbed a gun that I had sitting next to my bed, and I ran upstairs to see what the hell was going on, and the whole house is surrounded by the FBI. And so that is the reason why the media twisted it around to say, this man was in an armed standoff with the FBI. Everything that you read is bullshit. There's another side to this story that I've never been able to tell. I'm telling you just bits and pieces of it now because it's coming out of my mouth. I didn't even plan on talking about any of that today, but a lot of you are asking me to do this, and all of my paperwork and all of the factual information that I have is all in a pile of papers in Pittsburgh, 300 miles away. So just be patient. I'm not going to have somebody send it up here. It's like, it's probably 20 pounds worth of stuff. I mean, the government sent me a PDF file that was 365,000 pages long. Have you ever opened up a PDF file on your computer that was 365,000 pages long? I forget what the file size of the PDF was. I think the IT guy who gave me the laptop from the lawyer's office had to install a bigger hard drive just to hold the thing. I don't remember. It's ridiculous. But there are a lot of things to talk about there. And, I've got some other stories, but we're coming up on probably coming up on the right amount of, we're definitely past the time today. So I'm just